And Allison, I'll let people in as they come in. But
Well, it looks like we do have a fair amount of people already. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining our information session today. Later, we'll hear from a panel of local professionals in the fields of advertising, marketing, and PR who will talk about their career journeys, what drew them to Richmond, and their best advice for someone just starting on their own path. While people are still joining the call, I'd like to give a little background about RVA Now, which is this program that is putting on this event. We're a new program from Chamber RVA aimed at connecting college students and graduates with what's great about living and working in the Richmond region. We do this through events like this one, where we feature a particular industry or organization that's pushing the region forward, and of course, through social media, blogs, and other content intended to give you the full picture of living in the region. We're also about to launch our website, which is very exciting. That will include things like a regional job board, a neighborhood guide, events calendar, and more really cool tools to give you that full picture. So definitely keep an eye out for an update about that in the next few days. But one last thing before we begin, we want to hear from you. If you go to menti.com on your phone or your browser and enter the code on the screen, we have a question for you. If you're a college student joining us today, I know not everyone is, but if you are, we'd love to hear where you go to school. Just to, this will help us, advertising our programs and making sure we're putting the best content forward to you. So while you're responding, in just a second, we'll show a great video from our partners at Richmond Region Tourism that shows off a little more about our region, about different activities and fun cultural things. So you can keep an eye on that once you've answered the question. And Sam, if you'd like to show the video. There you go, perfect. Awesome. That's such a fun thing. It always makes me miss, pre-COVID times and looking forward to when we can get back. And also, so while we're wrapping up, we'd love to hear what your current major or degree is. I saw that we had a lot of JMU, a lot of U of R and VCU. We're happy to have everyone, we've got big crowds from some and smaller people from smaller groups from others. So we're really excited to have everyone here. But we'd love to hear what you're studying now. You can also use the Menti Q&A feature throughout the discussion, or you can put them in the chat, or of course you can wait to the end. We'll have a Q&A session when you can ask them directly. You can definitely ask them to all panelists or direct them to a specific panelist because they all have different experiences and different work that they're currently doing. So they'll all have a lot to bring to the table and we're really excited to hear from them. I'd now like to introduce our moderator for today's discussion. Jessica Collins joined the Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture as an assistant professor in fall 2018. I'm sure some of you actually already know her. She has more than 10 years of experience as a strategic planner working with some of the biggest brands in the world, like Walmart, Target, and Johnson & Johnson, and more. She uses her time outside of the classroom to bring new innovation and excitement to the Robertson School by planning events such as the first ever One Club for Creativity Strategic Workshop and VCU Camp Adventure, which is a free virtual 6-week camp offered to students from around the world. Last year's inaugural camp attracted over 200 campers from 64 universities, offering real-life client experience to students who lost their internship opportunities due to COVID-19. This year's camp focuses on giving educational access to students from community colleges and smaller advertising programs to even the playing field as they begin their careers in the advertising industry. We are so excited to have Jess with us today to moderate. Thank you so much. And Jess, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I almost teared up a little bit. That was such a nice introduction. And I'm totally geeking out because I see a bunch of former students in here. And so I will not, I'm excited to meet everyone new, but I saw a couple of old names up there and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm so excited to be here today. I think this is a great panel for people to just get some great advice. I have some hard-hitting questions for the panelists, and we are joined by an amazing group of panelists. When I looked at it, we've got people from client side, from agency side, to traditional roles, to not so traditional roles. And so I think that this is going to be a great conversation today, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys. So thank you for that opportunity. And at the end, we were going to have a moderated panel for about 45 minutes, and then we will open up for Q&A. Clearly, you can write your question in the chat, and if I see it in there and it sparks my interest a little bit, I might just go rogue and ask it right there. But you'll also have the opportunity to face-to-face ask people as well. I want to take the first few minutes to have the panelists introduce themselves. I know we have, I'm just going by my list here, Beth Saunders from Lewis Media Partners. We're so excited to have you. If you could just say hello and what you do over at Lewis Media Partners.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of the panel today. It's nice to virtually meet everyone. So I work at Lewis Media Partners. I am vice president here and director of accounts. So we are completely a full service media agency, which means we handle all paid media, as well as now we're doing SEO. So nice to be with you.
All right, Cynthia and Nance, I'm looking at you. You're representing the Martin Agency.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Santia. I work at the Martin Agency. I've been there for nearly 8 years. Somebody actually said, you should probably say almost a decade now. And I'm like, I don't want to say that yet. We're not there. But yeah, I work in comm strategy as well as media planning and buying at the Martin Agency. I work on a lot of different brands, including CarMax, DoorDash, B-Dubs, a lot of different clients, just helping with some of the social assets and thinking about paid social, as well as just helping bring to life brands in different non-traditional ways, specifically in the digital space. So there's just a lot going on right now, especially with COVID and thinking about how people are consuming media and how people are interacting with the world. So just helping bring that to life across multiple brands.
Thank you. All right, we have Olga Huxell, who's representing Atlantic Union Bank. Hi, Olga.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm a marketing lead for the bank's wealth management division. So the Atlantic Union Bank has a wealth management division that provides financial advising services, private banking, trust and estate services. And I'm a lead marketing lead for that division. Also, most recently, I've taken over the home loans line of business as well. And I'm on the client side. So I work with the internal creative team now, but I've also in the past worked with ad agencies as well.
All right. And last, but certainly not least, is Stephanie Mack representing West Cary Group.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. Like she said, I'm a senior copywriter at West Cary Group. So I work on the internal creative team, just in my particular role, bringing brand voices to life And some of my biggest clients are Capital One and Luxottica.
So I did not disappoint with saying we've got tons of different roles, different kinds of companies coming at you. And I think the most appropriate question to ask the panelists, especially after I saw the different areas that you were studying, why should people want to pursue a job in PR, advertising, marketing? And I just open that up to the panel. Beth, I'll go with you. Why should
All right.
you join this circus?
I will start. So I've been in this business for now 32 years. So everybody can back up and figure my age. So I have always been in this industry. I started at a mid-size agency. I moved to the Martin agency for about 10 and a half years, and then joined my best friend here at Lewis Media Partners. We're kind of doing our own thing. So I would say a career in advertising for me is just fun. So particularly in my side of the business, which is the media side, and that is, the discovery phase of target audiences, and that becomes more complex. We'll get into that probably a little bit later. But it's like every day I get to come to work, I get to be in somebody else's shoes. So one day I can be a working mom, the next day I can be a C-level, the next day I can be someone in the electrical field. So it's literally every day you get to take on the role of someone else and just learn about an amazing amount of information about vast industries. And you're always moving in warp speed. Even during COVID, we were all moving in warp speed. So I can't think of any other career right now that allows me to do that. And it changes. Every day something changes. If you don't believe me, just look at Facebook. Literally every day we come in, something has changed with Facebook, and you have to let your clients know. So it's always fast-paced, it's fun, and you just get to learn a lot about different industries.
Olga, I see you're at the block next to her on my screen. What do you think? Why should people join this as the chat said, the creative circus?
Yeah, I have to second what Beth just said. To me, marketing has always been fun. I remember when I first took my first marketing class in college, and I had an amazing professor that just made it sound really fun. And I agree with her. Not that it's always, just pure fun, but my point is that I do like the variety of different projects that I get to work on. I love the variety of people that I get to work with. So on one side, I have the creative folks I work with, and on the other side, I have very analytical, product, oriented people that I work with. And it gives me this very nice variety. And I think that's one of the things that are really works for me in marketing, that is a combination of creative and analytical. I'm not a super creative person. Like I would not be a designer or somebody like that. I can't come up with a design for a brochure to save my life, but I work very well with designers, and we can work together on creating something really awesome. And to me, that's a great part of it. And also then on the other side of it is the analytical part of it. That's also a big part of marketing as well. And I like that combination.
Cynthia, what do you think?
Yeah, just to echo what everybody's saying, it is really fun. And I definitely believe my love for it started in college, maybe even before that, but definitely just taking mass comm classes. I majored in mass comm, obviously, with the focus in creative advertising. So it was really cool to get to learn about everything like that. But I do think that in general, just being a career woman in marketing, the best part about it really is getting to dabble in the different industries. Like I think about all the different accounts I've gotten to work on over the years, and just like everything I've learned about the industry. I used to work on Land O'Lakes when we had Land O'Lakes, and I think about how we literally went on grocery trips to different grocery stores in Richmond, because for some reason Richmond is the mecca of grocery stores. And they all came from Minneapolis to ride around Richmond, and we went to the different stores and looked at where the butter was at every store, like the Targets and the BJ's, and like Kroger's, Publix, everything. And I learned that the name brand butter is actually Land O'Lakes, but they sell it because they make so much of it that they have to like offload it. And so it was just so interesting to just get to learn about the way that comes to life, and just the fact that they really are farmers, like they're a farmer company, a farmer owned company, and just learning all the things about an industry that you would have never known if you didn't have those clients. And it's all just, it's all so different. Like even a CarMax is different as well. And just thinking about used cars and the kinds of things their company is in, and the kinds of people that work there. It changes everything just based on what you're immersing yourselves in. And it's super interesting, and it changes so often that that part is fun, that you get to work on different accounts. My child.
Stephanie,
I'm sorry.
oh no, it's the world of Zoom. Stephanie, did they leave anything out?
I agree a lot with what Santia said about just, how interesting this field is. I feel like I maybe had a little bit of an unconventional, path to landing in marketing. I didn't major in anything marketing related in school. I was an English lit major, and then I came to VCU to do my graduate degree in creative writing. And marketing and advertising is really the way that I have found to live my passions every day in real life and get paid for it. So I feel very fortunate to be able to do this. And I love it because it really taps into, like I think all three of you have mentioned, you get to work with so many different companies and brands and voices, and you get to be something new every day. It's never boring. My whole passion in life is just kind of living for a really good story. And that's what marketing has allowed me to do.
So this question is going to be no surprise, because spoiler alert, that's why we're here, is about jobs in the industry. What do students or recent graduates, what do they need to do to get their foot in the door? Like what's the first thing you'd say to somebody that says they want to get their foot in the door? Santia, you're shaking your head. What do you think?
Honestly, it's tough. And I feel like a lot of people have this question. And again, to Stephanie's point, getting there can sometimes be like a backdoor or different type of way that you never envisioned yourself getting in there. I was one that was very eager to put my foot in anyone's door when I first graduated from college, and it was not easy. I did have an internship in New York, which was really cool. And I was in a program called the Multicultural Advertising Internship Program. And I was there for a summer in New York working at Mediacom, a pretty big agency, but I didn't want to live in New York. So I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this New York lifestyle. I'm going back to Richmond, and I'm going to try to put my foot in the door. There weren't a lot of doors to put my foot in as there were in New York, but just building a network in New York made it a little difficult for me in trying to build one in Richmond. So I do think that networking everywhere you go is super, super important. And even if it's somebody who might not be like the president of an agency, it's nice to just know someone who knows someone who knows someone. And that's just super important, and just making a good impression on people, adding people on LinkedIn and creating a network. It's just something that I found to be super, super valuable in general. And it is not something that I did. And I wish I had done more of it, and just like collecting the people and staying in touch with people and building that network. Because again, like even the network that you have is really your classmates. Like those are that's your network. And they're going to grow, and they're going to work at companies, and they're going to own companies, and they are going to, they're going to build what they're building, and you can be right next to them doing the same thing. So I definitely think it's important to continue to build that network for the foot in the door.
All of you guys are shaking your head. I'll see all my panelists saying, yep, that's about right. That network is key. Anything to add to that, or take it a step further?
I think one of the, sorry.
No, go ahead, Olga. No, go.
I think one of the things to keep in mind too is that to realize that your first job, or maybe even your second job, is not necessarily going to be your dream job. You know, the whole point of getting that foot in the door is just to get started. I started out as a sales assistant at some showroom, you know, for trade shows. And I still learned a lot from it. And so I think it's just keeping that in perspective, that when you're straight out of school, you don't have experience yet. Don't be, I'm not saying take anything, but just keep that in perspective, that you're not going for your dream job right off the bat. And to echo what Cynthia said, definitely networking. That was the mistake I made as well. Nobody talked about networking back then. So I wasn't developing my I was not building it back then, and I wish I had.
Beth, what were you going to say? You seem to be nodding.
Yeah. So I think everybody, that's such great advice. Two things as somebody who does a lot of hiring, and this is going to sound so basic, but know the company that you're interviewing with. And I know that sounds basic, but I'm going to tell you this. During our internship last year, we interviewed over 30 people, and only 5 of them had taken the time to go to the website. Period. I know it sounds crazy, right? So, but it sounds like the most basic thing, but I'm going to say, know the company backwards and forwards, research them, understand what they do, know who's in the company, know their clients. And it's not enough just to know that, then do more research on the clients that they have. Like, nothing's more impressive when you come in well prepared to have a meaningful conversation with me about the job you want. Just one other thing I do want to say is I prefer when people come in focused. And so what I mean by that is, marketing is broad, advertising is broad, mass communications is broad. Find where you want to focus and really zero in on that. So if the job that's being presented to you is in research, and as Olga said, sometimes it's getting your foot in the door. It's not your dream job, but come to me prepared to say, I'm going to focus for 2 years. I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to put the time in to do research, because that's what you're asking me to do. So I would say come with a focus, but please, please, please don't come without knowing everything you can know about the company.
Stephanie, I was thinking about this, and this is building off of something Cynthia said, was there's been a question, you know, we're here because we're talking about RVA, right? Like, it's RVA now. And so and Cynthia mentioned this, but like, what is the benefit of putting your roots in a Richmond versus, you know, a New York, a Chicago, or that we hear about constantly? What's the benefit of being here?
Yeah. And I feel really fortunate that I ended up here. I feel like I got lucky, almost, not to downplay my, you know, hard work and whatnot. But I really ended up in a good place because I started my graduate degree at BCU. And then I stayed here because, you know, the marketing and ad scene is just so robust and there's so much opportunity here. And I really think that I've been trying to kind of put into terms what I love about this city and kind of like what the like magic formula is that does make us such, you know, a hub for marketing and advertising. And I think it's because or at least I feel that Richmond is on the leading edge of so many things. You know, I think that it's, you know, as we look back to kind of what was going on this summer, our city was really on the forefront of creating change with regards to social justice. And when you combine that with a community that's already so strong and nimble and caring and creative, and also just kind of absolutely immersed in the arts, like we have these just fabulous cultural roots, I think that's really what makes it such a hub for creativity and innovation. So I feel like it's just, I hate to use the word the sweet spot. Like, I don't like that. Who would say that to me and like put it in my brain? But it's a special place to be, and articulating why is a little bit difficult, but that was kind of my best shot at it.
Yeah, Olga, what do you think? Why is Richmond the sweet spot, if you will?
Well, I'm looking at it from the client perspective, right? So I'm not in an agency. So from the corporate perspective, what I like is that there's such a variety of companies here in Richmond. So you can work for a Fortune 500 or you can work for a startup. And I've covered all of them, I think, by now, the entire range. And I love that. I love the fact that that we do have those opportunities. We're not just tied to small to medium-sized companies, and we're not just stuck with the Fortune 500. So I think that's a fantastic feature of this, of Richmond.
What do you think? And this is a question I saw that has been chatted to me, but it was already on my list. So y'all stop reading ahead on somebody found my questions. But what is the most common characteristic that you see across the board with successful new hires? Is there some like magic potion of, you need to be this, this, and this, or what is your thought on the characteristics that you're looking for in someone, especially as a first job or now entering the workforce?
I actually try to do a lot of work in this space and helping students and interns and entry-level jobs at Martin. And I try to support those roles. I think one of the things that I am always looking for and I'm always pushing is really that hungry, ready, and willing to do work attitude, ready to learn. Like that attitude is so important. And a lot of people, and I'm gonna say myself, because this is how I was like, man, I know everything. We out here, like everything is great. But like when you have that mentality, that's okay. As long as it's married with, I am humble, I am here to do this work, I'm here to do my job, and I'm here to learn, and I'm here to make your job easier. As long as you can keep that attitude and really bring that to the table and know that, okay, as much as you want to write a spot today, that's not going to happen. You might have to file a file or take a phone call for a while before you can write a spot. But those things are the things that are going to get you to the point that you want to be in, to be able to go try to write a spot. I am not going to try to write a spot at any point in my career, but I might want to do something that is going to be noticeable out in the world. And it's like starting at helping somebody write an email is really where that begins. And I definitely love to see a humble attitude, and I'm ready to do anything as long as it is something that you need me to do. Like that is the attitude that works for me. And I always try to instill people to manage up and really just try to put your best foot forward in everything you do, even if it is taking a file from this folder to that folder. That's something that's going to help a whole team.
Beth, what were you going to say?
I love what you just said, because here's what served me well all my career, and that is excellence is a habit. You can either choose to make it a habit or not. Excellence in everything. As Cynthia said, whether it's taking a file from one place to the next, it's done with excellence. I think that will serve you well. I also think, I'm not sure of everyone who's in this today, but I will say in the fast-paced digital world that we live in, I would advise you, I think we run on this mentality of there's no time to think, just react, right? We live in a world where it's instant gratification all the time. I would encourage you to slow down and think and not just react. I think one of the biggest things for me as I was coming up was I failed to listen as much as I should. I could have learned so much by listening to my peers, my colleagues, because I was already in my head thinking 5 minutes into the conversation, what's the client want to hear? What does my boss want to hear? And I missed so many great nuggets of information and wisdom because I was trying to think 5 minutes ahead of everybody else. So I would highly encourage you to do everything with excellence, especially listen, but slow down and take time to think. We still live in a world where we need really good, meaningful thought.
Yeah, what do you guys think, Olga and Stephanie? What and I just quickly, I always laugh your comments that you guys have said so far make so much sense, because the first creative brief I ever wrote, and my students have heard me say that, was for birdseed. And that didn't I wrote a dang good brief for birdseed. Like I didn't want to, but I did. So yeah, what do you guys think? We sound like it's, Beth and Cynthia have said hunger, striving for excellence. What else are good, do you think, characteristics for entry level hires?
I think to build on what Beth and Cynthia said, I think one of the things to know at the beginning, or really any new job you start, even later in the career, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So what I'm noticing often, especially in younger people, when they start a new job, they want to impress everybody. They want to show that, hey, I got it under control. I know everything. And I think it's important to realize, no, you don't. And people around you know that you don't, and it's okay. So having that attitude that it's okay to ask questions, people expect you to ask questions, people expect you to not know things. And the mistakes that I see in some of the younger people that I've been working with, they're so terrified of coming across as they don't know, and they want to impress everybody so much, they end up messing up so badly. And there's, people around them who work with them, their superiors end up getting so frustrated, they have to fix their mistakes. And they was like, oh my God, if they would just have asked the question, we could have avoided this whole mess. So I would keep that in mind. And one last thing that may sound trivial, but I know it served well in my career. And I'm noticing, again, the people who don't have this skill really suffer. Organizational skills, almost like project management / organizational skills. Believe it or not, marketing is not all about high level creative concepts and all of that fun stuff. It's also getting into the trenches and having 100 projects running at the same time and trying to keep track of where you are with this and that and all of that. And people who succeed are usually, in addition to all those other qualities of being driven and all of that stuff, they're also very organized, and they can keep their stuff together and straight and having a lot of different balls up in the air and managing that.
So that's a good segue into, I'm gonna ask you, Stephanie, a good segue in for everyone else too, but there's a lot of questions about, so there's some mistakes or not characteristics that we love once they get the job, but let's back up. What are the common mistakes you see when people are actively looking for a job? Are there portfolio mistakes or communication mistakes? What are the common pitfalls? And I'll start with you, Stephanie, that you just see with people as they're looking for their jobs.
What comes kind of first to my mind is really being able to, on a call, advocate for yourself, really stand out, whether that's on paper or whether you've landed an over the phone Zoom interview, because nobody's doing in person these days, COVID. But I put a lot of work into kind of making sure that, to Olga's point, when you're submitting a resume or application materials or your creative portfolio, if you're a creative, making it, very clean, easy to understand, scannable, and kind of being able to show your own worth and value in the same way that you would highlight your clients. I think that says a lot about how you initially present yourself, says a lot about how you're going to represent your clients. So I've just seen kind of a lot of materials that were lackluster or forgettable. So I'd say strong first impressions.
Cynthia, what do you think? Where are people dropping the ball, if you will?
I do think from a candidate standpoint and just being out there, standing out really is important. And one of the ways that you can do that is by not letting up from reaching out to people. I see a lot of, and again, like I said, I work with some of these people pretty often, a lot of confidence falls because people aren't getting responses that they want. But it's like, no, I've seen your name. I might not have wrote back to you, but I've seen your name, and that's what's important, because that's what's going to stick out when I have to think about this in 3 months. It might not be today that I'm like, oh my gosh, I need you today. But in 3 months, if I'm like, okay, who reached out to me and who was trying, who made an effort, like that does make you stand out. And I do think that I wouldn't be worried about annoying people or like being like, honestly, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, you really can do this. You're really sticking out, and you really are hungry. And it shows that attitude that we're looking for, like somebody who's ready to do this work, ready to do the job, knows something. You've done your research. Like I can tell when somebody's like read my LinkedIn profile and they're like, hey, I noticed you used to blah, blah, blah. How'd you get into that? And I'm like, okay. Like to Beth's point, it's like showing that you've done your research and not letting up is definitely something that does stick out.
Beth, are there other mistakes you just see in general from, from younger, as they're first navigating? Like Olga said, we don't know what we don't know. So maybe we can start to realize the common mistakes and move away from them.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of everybody's a leader, right? So really good leaders want to hire other leaders. They should not be intimidated or threatened by that. Like my goal is when somebody walks into our company, go, wait, who's the leader here? Like who's, so much so that we don't even have titles on our business cards. And we don't have titles on our business cards because I don't want to be boxed in by my title, right? And so I think a lot of times I see mistakes happen when you come in and I feel like there's not an aspect of leadership to you. Even if you're in an the most entry level position, I love to see the attitude, respectful attitude of someone who wants to come in and says, I want to be a leader too. Like I applaud that. We mentor that. We nurture that. And really good companies do, because good leaders surround themselves with people way smarter than them, right? Because that helps, I really believe that the tide raises all ships. And so I would also encourage you though, please don't get boxed in. Like we just hired the most amazing young data analyst. She is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. But you know what? She came up through finance. She was doing P&L sheets. But her mind is wired that way. Her mind was wired for analytics. And so I would say, highlight your skill set first. Don't be so worried that I didn't have 10 internships or that I'm not exactly fitting into this mold, because skills matter. And it's really hard, I'm going to say, from my end of the business, which is more of the, on the paid media side, there's not a lot of majors, right, for media planning and media, right? There's just not. And so we look for people from all walks of life, but what I'm after is the way you think and what skills can I apply to this job. So really, really, really highlight that.
That's just interesting to think of, because you guys are all segueing into my questions, but you were saying that she didn't necessarily have the traditional role, to lead her to, traditional experience to lead her to being a data analyst. One of the questions I'm seeing is, how do you find out exactly, how do you know what your skill set's going to lend to, or how do you find where you're going to eventually be, 2 years in research, 2 years here, like what's a good way for them to start to discern where they think they might end up?
I think that's part of the exploration. I think my advice would be, when you are young and you're just starting out, don't be afraid to try different jobs that may not be, your career most likely is not going to be straight line. It's going to be up, down, backwards, forwards, whatever, to the right, to the left. So I think that right out of college, explore. Don't be afraid, because you don't know. You don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know what area is going to resonate the most with you, what you're going to like the most, what you're going to be best at until you actually do it. I ended up being a production manager at Capital One at some point. I had no idea what that was. I don't know. I just applied for the job. For some reason, I got it. I had no skills to apply. But anyway, it had nothing to do with marketing. And I'm so glad I had that job, because I learned about print production and CMYK versus RGB and PMS colors. And that allowed me to be actually better in my marketing roles down the road. So things like that, don't be afraid to explore, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think I would echo that, and just say that and I've kind of had this all over path. I think that what drove me in life was just that I wanted to be a writer in some capacity. And that, at first I was, kind of into journalism, and there was a long period where I wanted to go into academia, and get my, PhD, and kind of do all that. And I feel like you know, it isn't a straight line. And so you should have the freedom to explore it, just as long as you're moving forward and not becoming complacent. If you're ever tremendously bored by something, that probably means that you need to be challenging yourself a little bit more. So, for instance, I also feel like just your natural passions are going to lead you toward roles that will ultimately culminate in where you want to be. Like, for instance, I was super into academia, super passionate about the inner workings of higher education. And that led me to be a higher education marketer for 5 years, before going into my role at Cary Group, where I work with more and more clients. So be open to where things lead you, I guess.
I saw an interesting question in the chat, because I think a lot of times when people are asking about how do I find a job, our perspective is that they're about to graduate, and it looks like there's some people on here that are freshmen or sophomores. So how do you prep to find a job? Like, what should our younger people be doing? They're not ready to enter full time yet. So what should they be doing now? Maybe our underclassmen, to prepare themselves for that day.
Definitely. I do. And again, this is my experience. As undergrad at VCU, I was in creative advertising, and they didn't make us do internships in creative for some reason, which was like I look back on that. Now they do. But I look back on that and I'm like, why didn't anybody make me get an internship? I would have just done this stuff without getting paid for it or something. But I definitely think just finding any internship experience that you can get is definitely something that will be valuable. And again, it does not have to be in advertising. It does not have to be marketing or graphic design or whatever you're into. I definitely think, to something Olga was saying earlier, the experience you get doing something outside of what you think you want to do is kind of either going to validate that you still really want to do this, or it's going to give you a skill that you're going to use to do what you're doing, or you're going to be like, actually, I love doing this thing. I'm going to just keep doing this. And just finding those ways to explore what you want to do and how you can apply it to another job. When I first graduated, the first big full-time job I had was I was working at Capital One also. And I was working in their website. And it was all about I'm dating myself, but it was all about taking their old school website and turning it into a mobile site. So we had a project where that was what we were doing. And it was a lot of copy paste work, but it was also Excel. I learned a lot about Excel. It was also coding. I learned a lot about coding. And it was something that was okay, I can learn more about my own organizational skills, more about my to-do list writing skills, a lot more about CSS. There was just so much knowledge to gain in that position that had nothing to do with what I'm doing now, or brand strategy or comm strategy, media planning. It wasn't marketing related at all, but it was such great experience just working with a team like just working with a team was something that I was able to gain out of that experience, and being able to work better as I've grown into my experience at Martin. So definitely don't shy away from doing things outside of your comfort zone at that age.
And I think what Cynthia just said, it's about building your transferable skills. It's, you know, you're not gonna be a marketing guru after you graduate college, but skills like organizational skills, your communication skills, things like that, your future employers, they will want to know, do you have those? And even later in life, in your career, when you go from one job to another, you may be going from one job to a job that you may not have the full experience for, but yet you will get that job because you have those other skills that you can demonstrate. And I think that's very important to remember. And one last thing, I would recommend start building your LinkedIn network. Start building that community online. Yep.
Yeah, I love what you said about you don't have to be a marketing guru, because I think all 5 of us could say, I don't feel like a marketing guru. Like I still look at stuff sometimes and I'm like, whew, don't know what the answer is there. So which leads into a good question. Somebody asked, what do you guys do to continue to progress now? Like, I think, a lot of people would say, oh, y'all are very experienced, but I bet the answer is you guys are still trying to learn as well. And if so, what are you doing to keep learning? Are there classes, or how would you answer that?
So I'm going to venture out here and say I'm the oldest of this group. I say that with pride. But yeah, please don't ever stop learning. In this industry, it's one of the cool things about it. It changes all the time. I think I said at the very beginning. And so right now we're trying to deal with what are we going to do with the cookieless future, right? The cookies are going away. People who don't have first party data are basically screwed. So we're like, we're constantly staying on top of that. So much so we were like, we want to be on the IAB Council to be a voice in this cookieless future. And so we have someone who sits on that council, and you have to push yourself to find those opportunities. But we're constantly, like, it's mandatory here that you attend 2 conferences a year, your choice. But certainly we want it to lead back to being able to help the whole agency. But there's so many of those. And during COVID, I think I saw an explosion of how we're going to be doing this in the future. It's not that we're all going to get on a plane and fly somewhere fun and hang out for a few days at a conference. It's probably going to be more like this, which allows us to have more, do more, attend at our own time. So I think that's another way that you just continuously stay on top of your industry and read. I beg you all, just read everything you can get your hands on, absorb it, think about it, share it out, have discussion about it, because I think we are voracious readers here. And so I find that I learn a lot just by doing that. One other thing I do want to say, Justin, and I'm going to stop talking, is I do want to encourage people to volunteer, and I'm going to tell you why. You want to learn organizational skills, you go to the food bank and work for a couple of days, and you're going to see organization at its best, right? You volunteer. I'm a big sister, big brothers, big sisters. You want to learn how to be a better communicator, you volunteer for things like that. I think real world experience is your best teacher. It's your best way to get prepared in the work world. And so if they're not, I know people are fighting for internships. I know not everybody's going to have enough of them, but you know what? Don't be discouraged by that. Volunteer, find somewhere to do that, because you're going to learn a lot that way too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from each of you what you're doing to keep it going, to keep the spark alive, to keep progressing your career.
I love what you said, Beth. So I just wanted to tag on to that because I was recently talking to some folks, about how to build your portfolio and things like that when you're just like, where do I start out? Where do I get this experience? And, maybe, I mean, internships are great, but you can also just do pro bono work like I did, like volunteering for, I think at my old job, I did a bunch of pro bono work for a local human trafficking organization, or to, educate students about, red flags, things like that. So not only is that great to kind of help build your professional portfolio, make connections kind of in your local community, build your network, but it also really does keep the spark alive. At my kind of lowest, morale points in life, I've started volunteering for organizations just to get my mind somewhere else and keep moving forward. So I do think that that's one of the most valuable things you can do for your community and yourself, really.
Cynthia, what are you doing to keep it alive and keep progressing?
Honestly, I mean, I'll definitely echo what everybody else is saying in terms of like keeping up with reading, but I just thinking about what you all are saying and just thinking about my own experience. I think what I'm doing is I just like start digging into anything and everything at the agency. So I'm like, who am I going to talk to about this thing? Or like today I'm going to learn about how a creative is coming up with social concepts, or I'm going to go talk to this person in finance to figure out why they did what they did, and just basically being nosy and being curious in all angles of the agency is something that I've personally done. I also just being a part, like half of my job, maybe like a third, is media planning. So like just being nosy with the industry is something that has been very helpful for me in talking to different partners, different technology companies, and different media properties, and learning what they're doing and how they're changing their own landscape and what it means for their business and what their numbers look like and what kinds of brands are doing this and that and that and that, and just literally taking time to soak in what they have to say and bring it back out into the rest of the industry has been being in media. You kind of can't help but to be up on what's the latest thing. Like I think about the way we were buying even 2 years ago compared to today. And it's like, well, I mean, you can't have a media plan without Facebook, but that was not always the case. And now it's like your whole media plan is Facebook and Google. And like a year ago, it's like, well, maybe we can do something else, but like, no, you got to buy Google. So it's just so interesting, and just being able to stay up on how advertising is showing up in the world, and changes every day.
Olga, what are you doing?
So I've got a couple of resources that I've been using. So I found that the American Marketing Association is a great resource. Actually, that's how I met Beth, is through the AMA. Is when in the pre-COVID world, they had these wonderful monthly special interest groups where at lunchtime we would go to different companies. Loose Media was one of them, and it would be kind of a continuous professional education. They would tell us what's going on in the digital world, the latest trends and all that. I always loved it. I really miss those. Hopefully we're going to bring them back. Then they have a monthly speaker. They have so many resources. I would highly recommend that once you do have a job is have your employer pay for your membership. I have the bank paying for mine. And another thing I found, so also through, for example, just to give you an example, through the cooperation between the American Marketing Association and the Digital Marketing Institute, I just got my certification as a certified digital marketing professional. So when I was dating myself, when I was graduating back in the day, there was no digital marketing. It was all just traditional marketing. And I realized that even though I had experience with digital marketing, just because you can't not to have it these days, I never had it kind of as a formal certification, and I really needed to dive deeper into it. So when I came across this certification, that I saw it on the American Marketing Association's website, I thought that was really interesting. And I went and I took that class and I got my certificate. So if you can get your employer to pay for these things as part of your professional development, I think most employers are open to that these days. They want to contribute to their employees' professional development. One of the nice free resources I found was Hootsuite. They have a lot of little certifications you can get for free. I did my own social media certification. I did something else, I can't remember now, but it went on my resume just to show that, you know, all these different areas. So you can do things like that. And that's what I do.
Yeah, this is great. We're getting to the end here, and I do have I'm going to ask something, but I have a fun question at the end. But I just sort of wanted to. I've been listening to everything you guys say, and I wanted to sort of round out what you've said to as a culmination of everything to our people that are looking for jobs, and it makes me feel good because it's what I say to my students. So thank God that I'm not spewing off nonsense, but that not sometimes, but it sounds like what you guys are saying, which I find to be true as well, is that, you know, I think a lot of young people put a lot of pressure on themselves to be the best at something, right? Well, we are not hiring people that are young to be the best at something yet. Like, we don't expect the skill level to be as good as somebody that's been there for 10 years. We can teach that, right? Like, you guys can teach that. You can help them progress in that. What you can't teach as well is how somebody thinks. And I think that is the biggest thing, is that if you can, what these wonderful women have said is, if you can set yourself apart or show how you think or show how you attack a problem, that's something we can work with. That's what sets you apart from everyone else. And another common theme I heard from them is that it's not the 50s anymore. You don't have to have the same job for the rest of your life. Don't sweat. It's so easy to find a job once you have a job. So I would say take that first job, and then it's so much easier to find a job then too, right? So I've asked a lot of the questions in the panel, and I'm from the chat, and I'm sure you guys will be willing to let anyone else reach out to you after this as well, because you guys have been brilliant. Here's just a fun thing. I think a misconception, or maybe not, is that we just work it's so crazy, right? Like, the hours are so crazy. What in Richmond do you do for fun? What's fun out there?
Well, I guess I can go. What I love about Richmond is that there's such a variety of things to do. So if you want to be outdoorsy, you can do dirt biking, road biking, kayaking, all of that. But also, if you want some culture, you have culture, and it's a foodie scene. So my husband and I, we're just gonna do all of it. We have some friends who are purely just outdoorsy, and we do dirt biking with them and road biking and things like that. And then we have friends we go to explore different restaurants with and go to theater with. So that's what I love about Richmond, is that there's just such a variety of things that you can do, you know?
Yeah.
Beth, what do you love about Richmond?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So I'm a big foodie too, and I I so miss all the great restaurants and being able to do that. But I am a big theater person and music, and so almost every weekend, and I don't care whether it's cold, hot, there's great music here in Richmond. The artist scene is just fantastic. Whether it's, you know, sitting in a little coffee shop down in Shako Slip, or whether it's going out to the north side and going to one of those little neighborhood restaurants. Like, there's just art at every turn. And even if you're not an artist, you're not a musician, there's something here for you. So I love the artist scene. I love that Richmond is a big supporter of that, and you can definitely tell.
Stephanie, what's great about Richmond? And I'm going to round you out, Cynthia, so you be ready.
So I live super close to the BMFA, and I did that purposely, just because I love it. I love to be outside reading. It's a wonderful kind of like communal environment out there. And when it's not COVID, what I really love to do are, you know, finding these events in the community that are very like learning based. I feel like a lot of what draws me to being a marketing writer is a lot of what I do outside of my work too. You know, the author scene here, like going to small bookshops, and then also, you know, signing up for really cool classes. Like, I think I did like a meditation class at the BMFA. There's, classes at the Viz Art Center that you can take that like enrich your personal life and then also kind of give you these unique skills that you can apply to your professional life. So I think it's just echoing what Beth said too, that there is so much to do here. And if you have an interest, you can probably find it.
All right, Cynthia, bring us home.
No, I'll definitely echo that. Like whatever you want, you're gonna find it in Richmond. It's actually not even that hard. Just thinking about some of the stuff we were talking about earlier in the volunteer space, like also that's another place where it's really easy. Like whatever you would volunteer for, a quick Google search, you will find it in Richmond. You'll find the group of people that are doing it. You'll find them on Facebook or on Meetup or something. One big thing I got into maybe 10 years ago, like right after I graduated from VCU, was hula hooping. And it was funny because I'm one of those hula hoopers that does the whole thing. But what was funny was I actually didn't know where I could learn that. I'd seen it on YouTube and I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I can Google it. So I Google it and I find a woman who teaches hula hoop like in 2010, I'm just like, and she had a whole class and it was at Dogtown in Manchester. And I took the class and found out she had a whole other group where we volunteered, and this is pre-COVID, volunteered going to different, mostly lower income communities or bigger events, and bringing hula hoops and fun to events that sometimes don't always have something for the kids to do. So I've definitely gone to like different elementary schools with the hula hoops, other like different events downtown or at just all kinds of different things. Like we used to do a lot of Chimborazo Park stuff. We'd go to the East End and bring the hula hoops, done the kids festival, just all kinds of different things in Richmond, and just bringing that fun and that piece to the kids. And obviously there's a big yoga scene. If you want to do yoga, like it's very easy to get into the yoga scene here, and just meet whoever you want and talking to people. It's chill. Like I have a young son, so it's nice that there's a lot of things you can do with kids in Richmond as well. So it is nice, the best of both worlds. But then going back to Shaco, RIP, my favorite coffee shop down there. But just having that moment too is also awesome, and being downtown and going to to Shanae and going to the different breweries in Richmond. Like there's just so many different things you can do, and it's an awesome city and I love it.
Well, I can't think of a better way to turn it back over to you, Allison. You, the panelists, thank you guys, Cynthia, Stephanie, Olga, Beth. It's been a pleasure talking with you guys this hour, and thank you so much. I'll give it back to you, Allison.
Great. Thank you all so much. This was such a great and enlightening conversation. I don't want to keep anyone too much longer because we are going over time, but I also didn't want to stop the conversation because it was so great. But I do want to real quick just share some ways that you can get in touch with us, all the different places you can find us, our upcoming website. We'll also be following up with an email after this with a survey and with a bonus resource that goes into some of the data around who's hiring and some of the more, cost of living, some more just stuff about choosing to start your career in Richmond. So we'll definitely send that out as a thank you. But just, yes, thank you so much to our panelists. We really, there was so much to learn, even though I'm not in the field. I was thinking, yes, this applies to everything. And I loved seeing your responses on the Menti to see, all the different majors you're in, all the different backgrounds you have, and how those all sort of can converge and those skills can be used in this field in a really diverse way. So thank you all so much, and have a wonderful afternoon.